What's good, everybody? We are live and kicking. This is I don't even want to count the videos as like this is number two. I'm already doing that with some other things. So let's get right into it. This idea of starting over. Okay, so I think that I have mastered the art of starting over or beginning again. And I think that one of the reasons why it can be the comfort zone for a lot of us is for a few reasons. And let's take a look, just trying to be as transparent as possible. If I look at my own life, the times that I've started over, most times been because of a traumatic experience or some sort of uh, divine intervention where something is shifting and I have no idea why. And you just got to start from where you are. Now, if you're like me, you probably know how to start over. Like you literally can begin from zero. And a lot of us take pride in that. Nothing's wrong with that. But after a while, if your starting over doesn't have some sort of residual, not benefit, but some sort of collateral that adds up and builds up, eventually you start ending up with a collection of experiences that don't really amount to anything, not because they're not valuable, but they're so disjointed to an extent that you have no idea how to piece them together, even if it's in a book. Now, there's this guy, you probably know him. I think his first book was a New York Times bestseller, Robert Greene, Mastery. I don't know if you've heard of Robert Greene, but he had I guess kind of a similar experience. He had a dead end job here, another job here, just kind of going all over the place. And it seemed as if he was meandering through just life until about in his 30s. I think he was 30 exactly. Somebody took him under his wing, long story short, and he was able to take all of these experiences and put them together, right? So there are a lot of us who know how to start over. And I told you that I knew how to do that. And I think it's because of some of the experiences that positioned me in a place to just literally start from zero. New York City, we're going to talk about that one of these days, was like a start from zero experience, like literally sleeping on a subway, sleeping on church steps, all of that kind of stuff. And the point is, when I got to a point where things were going great, it shifted. Like I literally had this call and this urge to go back home. And that isn't a start over in self-sabotage, but when you start doing things over and over again, I'm going to be very practical with you. How many of you have started a page, started a blog, started a website, maybe even in your social media, and after maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even a year, you just swipe the thing clean? As a matter of fact, you can go to my Instagram right now, and I only got one post up, but I have an archive of like maybe 100, posts, and a lot of them dealt with branding. And, the problem is, and this is how you end it. This is one of the ways that you end it. The problem is when you don't think that you've shared something valuable enough and you don't have the amount of likes. For me, it wasn't necessarily the amount of likes or people liking it. It was just this idea that I don't know if this is really worth its weight in gold for it to be up there, because I mean, that's me. Whatever I post is part of my identity, so to speak, or at least it reflects what I think, it reflects what I believe. And I don't know if it's that deep. Not everything that you post or not everything that you share is going to be deep, right? But if you have that mentality, then you eventually will start just scratching and starting over, scratching and starting over. One of the ways that you learn how to not start over, and this sounds so simple, guys, the best way is to do it and just leave it up there. That's it. Like, that's all you need to do. You just do the thing. You share the thing first, and then you just leave it up there. Period. Like when I look back, man, at some of the experiences that I have, and even and some of you guys could probably think about this too. When you go through your like when you started, like let's say when you started with Twitter. I think I started with Twitter originally like 2009 or something like that. And now, years later, the collateral isn't there. And so it begs the question, people can't see the growth. I may not really remember. I may have things in a journal, but those are just things that are personal. It's not things that I can, be able to share and exhibit and show the growth to other people. So the point is this: when you get to a place where you want to begin starting over, think about why. Ask yourself the question, why am I starting over again? Some of us are comfortable in that chaos. Those of us who are serial entrepreneurs. I don't think that I'm a serial entrepreneur. There's this idea, there's this notion that you have to start something totally fresh. I mean, that's the idea. It's a totally different business. So it's a totally different idea, totally different vision. The mission is separate. The values are separate. So it's different from the business that you created before. But the point is, you already built the first business. A lot of us haven't built the first thing yet. So you got to know when it is that you're starting to self-sabotage and when you're beginning to repeat the cycle of, man, I don't think what I'm sharing is valuable. I don't think that I'm worth, my weight in gold with my ideas or the things that I'm sharing with other people. I'm going to go ahead and start over. For a lot of you, it might be the book. You had man, that's one of the things that's on my list too, right? You began the first draft and you stopped. And now you have to start it all over again, or you might even have a different idea for a book and then you stop again. And then so the whole thing is you have to commit to just doing the thing. That's it. Let me tell you one of the things that I have actually struggled with is this idea of speaking, and as calculated as I can get, this right here isn't calculated at all. It's just talking from my own personal experiences. And one of the ways that helps me not to sabotage starting over is going live. I can't do this over, right? Now, if I don't think, and this is where your self-confidence come in, if I don't think that I have something worth sharing, or that what I've shared was worth its value to somebody else, I'll take it down. I'll start over. One of the things that I really kind of wrestled with is, man, how can I, from somebody who's this technical person who enjoys design from a user experience side, somebody who knows how to, do the strategy stuff, just now start talking about motivational, inspirational, ideas that, yeah, they might be backed with theories, and I can find secondary sources and things like that, but it doesn't feel as credible when I'm sitting here listening to other motivational speakers or listening to other singers, and that's what they do. They're in their creative space, they're in their element, and they are providing immense value. And so sometimes we compare ourselves to, and that's the comparison trap. We talked about that yesterday. We compare ourselves to individuals who are doing the very same thing that we should be doing, and we're like, but if I do it, I don't know if it's gonna really take, because it might not be as it might not be as influential, when really the only thing that they have over you is most likely volume, quantity. For a lot of you, you're looking at people at what they're doing, and you probably say to yourself, I could do that. Of course you can, because you were given the ability to do it. You were given the gift to do that thing. But for some reason, you have kind of stepped back. So here's the first thing. First thing is, put it up. You got to share it, whatever it is. You got to share it. Writers are not writers if they're not publishing their ideas, if they're not sharing their stories. They're really just writing. If you're just writing in a diary or a journal, you're not a writer per se. You're somebody who writes in a journal. Right? If you really want to be somebody who is sharing these ideas, then you go from the journal logger entry person to the actual journalist, right? There's a difference between the two. So the first thing is you got to share it. You're probably going to hear me say that a lot, because that's the space that I'm in right now. I'm taking all of the ideas, all of the things that I've been doing over the last few years, or maybe even yesterday, and I'm sharing these things now, right? So that's the first thing. You got to share it. The second thing is, believe that what you're sharing is worth its weight in gold. Believe that it is valuable. It may make you think twice about tearing it down, because somebody else is going to look at it and somebody's going to say, wow, you know what? I really needed to hear that. And here's the thing. Most likely, the people that are hearing this, hearing you, seeing your work, experiencing your music, working with your designs, your tutorials, your courses, through teaching, whatever it is, they may not comment. They may not say a word. I remember I was watching one of these tech reviewers for years. And the only reason why I finally subscribed, I don't even think that I've commented on anything yet, but the only thing that the reason why I subscribed was because my man was consistent. Day in, day out. He was putting up another valuable piece of content, where now you can look back. I think it's 12 years back. You look back and you see my man as a kid, and he was doing this thing. And now, grown man doing the same thing that he was doing 12 years back. And so the point is, you got to share this thing and you got to keep it up. Man, I have fallen subject to that just this year alone, where I've put up some things that might have been, and hear me go. Here I go talk about might have been. These things were valuable, but I was like, I don't know. This is probably something that somebody else could probably do. Nah, you got to embrace that. Share it. And I'm not talking about just on social media. Listen, I have positioned myself where I don't see notifications, at least right now, because it can kind of get overwhelming. I don't know if y'all know how Facebook works, but even though I deactivated my account, people were still able to tag me and stuff. And so I wasn't really aware until you come back and then you see all of these notifications. It's designed to get you back in. I don't have it on my phone. I've got it only on the desktop, and I'm only going to be on it when it's time to stream. Like, that's the space I'm in right now. So don't overwhelm yourself. Sometimes you end up starting over because you stop because you're thinking about too many steps ahead. Don't think about too many steps ahead. And for a lot of us, social media will allow us to do that, whether if it's the comparison trap, whether if it's because we're looking at the pieces of content that we need to do in order to start to gain a critical mass following, whatever it is. Take it off your phone and then only go on when you're ready to produce content. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's one of the ways that you can also end this self-sabotaging cycle of starting over. Well, if you go up, produce content, and then come out of the thing, you don't have to worry about it. The only thing that should be starting over is your days of the week. By God's grace, every Monday should come by. Every Tuesday should roll around. Every Wednesday, those things should be starting over. But man, the resources and the value that you've been sharing with other people, stop putting it up and taking it down. I'm like the ultimate villain of doing that, right? So what's the other thing? The second thing I would say, if you're sharing it, that's number one. Number two is don't take it down, leave it up, have the faith and trust to know that what you're doing is valuable. The other thing is hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Live streaming for me is accountability, but we have to take it another step further. So I told you about Les Brown last night. He was working out his entire idea of reviving the Greatness Center. If you go to, I think his the website is the Les Brown Greatness Center.com, and simple. It's a simple website right now, but he said, listen, holding myself accountable. I got the site up. I got a small, I got a simple PayPal link up, for the donations, because I'm assuming it's most likely going to be nonprofit, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is, he's got that up. He even worked out the time. He said, listen, Sundays at 10. I know some of y'all might go to church on Sunday. Hey, that's cool. But this is for another population who needs to hear another kind of message. So I think that we should do the same thing. If we're talking about accountability, let's do it right here, right now. So I'm thinking 8 o'clock in the morning, we do this. I still don't know what this is, but I do know that it's connected to the Anti-Hero Clinic. And so for those of you that don't know what the Anti-Hero Clinic is, it is right now virtual, but it's going to be a space for individuals who have tasted the virtue, tasted the results, the fruit of success, of maybe honor, because you feel like you've lived, or you have been living out a purposeful life. You've added meaning to the things that you've been doing, but you've made mistakes. You've either might have failed because of not your own doing, but you maybe tried something and you didn't. And so this idea of shame, this degenerative narrative just overtook what you've done and turn it into who you are. So it's no longer I failed at the job, but it's like I failed as a person, right? And then for a lot of us, this is where it really hits home, is you've actually made intentional mistakes. You've misappropriated. You're going to hear me say this a lot, because this is really what the tagline is: misappropriating your gifts and talents for your own personal use instead of serving other people. And so eventually it does come to ruination. And so the Anti-Hero Clinic is based on what I call the anti-hero's journey. There's 17 stages in the hero's journey. You are the hero of your story. But eventually, maybe in stage 3, stage 4, stage 14, you go off the beaten path. So think of it as like two planets, and that you're kind of orbiting around the hero's journey. So you're kind of going around, beginning from stage 1 all the way through to stage 17. But eventually, you kind of you float off into orbit, because you lose sight, vision, your purpose, your meaning, because you messed up. And man, how do I get back? I don't know how to get back. So now you're floating. So what I originally did was I created the anti-hero's journey for people like us, people who was like, oh man, how do you get back to what you used to be or where you know you were? The first thing that I realized is that there's a big difference between honor and success. And so the anti-hero's journey is to help you to, it's like catching you off the orbit, right? So you're off the path and it's like, whoop, it takes you through the 7-stage process and it loops you right back in. Now, before, when I first created this thing, it was really supposed to be with you being like the recovering anti-hero forever and, you know, just kind of staying in that orbit. But I realized, no, it's just a detour to get back to your original hero's journey. Okay. So the hero's journey is a tried and true methodology. Joseph Campbell, 1949, he put it out. And then everybody else after that started to adapt it. I think the most current and the most popular one right now is from Chris Vogler. I think in 2007, he created a version of the hero's journey. And I think it has, instead of 17 stages, it might have 8. But it's the same idea. There's this answer, there's this call to adventure. You refuse the call, then you answer the call. Like Joseph Campbell realized that in all traditions, in all cultures, ancient and even modern, that they were all the same. Religious, non-religious, the story patterns were the same. And so that's how come you see The Matrix, you see Star Wars, you see Disney movies, you see maybe even Mission Impossible. Like, you know, actually Mission Impossible does even begin with that, right? If you choose to accept this mission, like the call to adventure is there. What you do with it makes the difference. And then, you know, you slay the dragon and then you have to return home and, you know, become the master of both worlds, all of that. Okay, so I'm saying all of that to say that that's why this thing was created. But I created this thing years ago, guys. As a matter of fact, what I'm probably going to do, and we're gonna probably start setting up a schedule for this thing, because that's another step that we have to kind of work ourselves through. So as I'm telling you, I'm also telling me too, is you don't have to do every single thing at once. I've got a lot of the resources built out already. And it's given me some great opportunities in the past, but that's the past. We are now in the present. And sometimes those past experiences is just now a reminder to help you to know those opportunities can come again, and maybe even in a different and more fruitful way if you pick up where you left off. All right. So how do you begin again? Is not what we're talking about. We're talking about stop beginning again. just stop. Like you've already done it. You might even have started already. That's okay. Keep going. You hold yourself accountable. So let's say 8 o'clock every morning, we'll do this anti-hero clinic session. And I think that what we will do is we'll begin with, I think it was my most popular presentation that I've done before. And I think it's been the most moving one, which is really how to reframe your story. I have a whole curriculum that's set out, and in reframing your story, in essence, it's going to show you how, based on who you're talking to, that people don't need to know every single detail. Depending on who you're connecting with, they just need to know the basics so that you have control, you have narrative over what you share without giving too much or criminalizing yourself or demonizing others or just overwhelming the person who just asked you, how was your day? And all of a sudden you just vomit everything else that has nothing really to do with, I just really wanted to know how you were doing, not your entire story. So that's what we're going to talk about. And then for those who you have an intimate relationship with, learning how to give this the details so that it doesn't seem so vague that it's as if you're not being vulnerable with them either, because that can also cause issues in friendships or relationships as well. All right, guys. So yeah, how do you start to begin again? Once again, sorry, not how do you start? How do you stop? You stop starting over by sharing things that you know. First of all, sharing, but then second of all, believe that what you're sharing has value in it. If you believe that it has value, then you're going to think twice about removing those things. I mean, I started this whole let's talk thing earlier this year, and I wish I would have kept those things up, but I was in a different place, guys. I was like, you know what? I'm not really on Facebook. I'm not really feeling that. And, you know, it doesn't really make a difference. That's because I didn't think that I would make a difference. And so you have to shift your mindset. You have to shift your mindset. There have been people who over and over have been telling you, and you probably don't remember, but they have been telling you that you have a gift, you have a talent, or it's just you. They may not even know your gift or talent, but they know that there's something special in you. If they haven't told you, I'm telling you right now, you've got it. You've got what it takes. Why? Because you're already here. You were put on here for a purpose. Now, the reason why I'm laughing is because I'm like, Chris, really, you're going to be that guy? You're going to be the one that tells people to feel good and to, yeah, that's what it is. Because you know what? A lot of us need to hear that. You have a purpose. Why? Because you're here. We need you. We need you out here. There are things that you can do that I can never do. And there are things that some of the other speakers that I look up to that they can do, that I can do that they can never do. Everybody has a particular role. You are the hero of your own story. And so be the hero is another huge tagline of mine. You got to be the hero. If you are not the hero of your own story, then what's going to happen is somebody else is going to be the hero in theirs, and you end up being the villain to their narrative because it's like you are now trying to prevent them from doing what you were supposed to do. Nah, just accept it. Just embrace the fact that you have a special calling over your life. You need to answer that call, and then you got to commit to it. Commitment is a big thing. Faith over feelings. You just got to move forward in it. All right, guys, that's it. And we're gonna get into more detail, into some more meat, and let's do that for tomorrow. All right, let's link up tomorrow. Let's cover my what I would call the popular presentation, how to reframe your story. I think it's the most practical one. We're gonna start from there, and I think that we're gonna rock and roll with that. All right, guys. Now, if you have any questions or anything, let me know. I'm using StreamYard, so the comments and everything should be popping up in here. If it isn't, then that means I guess I gotta like move back and forth through Facebook, but I'm trying to like connect it through Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and all of that, because that's the other thing too. I've only been sharing it with just one platform with just some people, but now I'm blowing the thing out. Accountability. All right, guys, we're out. We'll see you in the next one. Stop starting over. Begin with what you have and just keep giving to other people, because what you have is valuable. Why? Because you are valuable. I'll see you guys later.